my very sweet friends. I hope you're doing well. We're doing another sleepover club video today. I have moved locations, if you couldn't tell, because it's not the PM that it normally is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pretend, you know when you wake up after a sleepover, no one else is awake and you're just kind of sat there with your own thoughts. Imagine you're there, but I'm there too. We're both awake and we're gonna chat and chill because I didn't want to wait till this evening to film the sleepover club. So we're having a sleepover club during the day today, or during the morning. So once again, I have asked you to send me in some questions, some conundrums. Just obviously, but a disclaimer, I'm not professional when it comes to probably any of these topics. I'm just gonna be giving advice based on my personal experience. But as always, if you have any more advice or any more thoughts, then please leave them in the comments because I'm not the queen of advice. Okay, anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this one just because it was the last one that was submitted and is relevant to me, so I'm just gonna get this over and done with. This person asks, why have you deleted most of your old videos? This is obviously not, this is not an advice question, this is just me gonna let you know. So I've been on YouTube for the past like 5 years now, which is obviously a long time. I've grown, I've changed a lot in that time, and therefore the content I used to make doesn't really align to me now, or doesn't really align to my, not necessarily morals, but I did things 5 years ago that I wouldn't necessarily do now, and I don't think having some of those videos up is particularly positive. For example, feeding into that very like before and after type of content, not something that I appreciate now, and therefore not something I would like to be on my channel, and it doesn't reflect who I am now. Anyway, please help. I've had this crush on this guy for the last year, but he was in a relationship, so obviously thought nothing would ever happen. They broke up on New Year's Eve, and we've been talking for the last couple of months or so every day. We've met up once, and at the end of the date, he asked if he could kiss me. He was in a 5-year relationship though, and I'm scared of pushing him into something he's not ready for, / being a rebound. Don't know if he's looking for something casual / strictly sex, but that's definitely not something I want. I know I need to broach the subject with him, but it feels way too early to do so, and also I feel so uncomfortable putting myself out there. Plus, if I don't ask, I can say blissfully ignorant and not run the risk of being rejected. I don't want to get hurt, but it feels inevitable. I like this boy so much. How do I navigate this? So there's a lot. My first thought initially when I read this, it doesn't sound like A, you're pushing him into anything, or B, a rebound. From the sounds of things, he was the one that wanted to initiate the kiss. It also sounds like if it was a rebound, I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, people that are looking for rebounds tend to act very fast and act much more on the sexual sense. So people that are looking for rebounds, this is very variable obviously, but aren't necessarily looking to build that like strong emotional connection, which it does sound like you have if you are speaking every day. I appreciate that this is like a really difficult thing to navigate, but, and I'm gonna say something annoying, I do think you need to broach the subject, because if you have been speaking for the last couple of months, then you should be able to know each other well enough to be able to kind of have these open and honest conversations. And if you feel like you can't have these open and honest conversations, then this isn't the kind of person that you want to invest more time into anyway. The other thing I will say is it's very easy to think that you can like remain blissfully ignorant about something by not bringing it up, when in reality not having that, like, not closure, but not having that understanding of where you are, not blissfully anywhere, because you're going to be panicking and questioning about what is actually happening. If you have this conversation, then all the questions go away, and although you are running the risk of, you know, the answer to the conversation being that you don't want the same things as this other person, having that conversation and having that understanding is going to be so much more vital, because otherwise you're just going to be spending your days worried and confused about what's actually going on. So you'll get a lot of clarity just from that conversation, and even if it's bad news, which I don't think it sounds like it's going to be, you'll still get the clarity, which you get so much from that. If you don't want to get hurt, but you're hurting yourself by remaining in this sort of self-sabotagey, confused state. Whereas at least if you get clarity, you may be hurt, you are running the risk of being rejected and hurt, but from that clarity you'll be able to move forward either way. This is an interesting one. How to navigate being around someone every day who once saw you naked. Well, if you are struggling with sort of like the idea of being around people that have seen you on like that more intimate level, then I think you need to remind yourself that they're probably not thinking in the same way that you're thinking. I don't know how recently after this is or how long ago it was, but eventually you're going to get to a point where it's going to be so long ago that you kind of forget. But maybe to an extent, I think I've got to a point now as like being in my 20s where I feel like I'm much more comfortable with like my naked body or my body. I have a less emotion attached to my nakedness or my body in general. Whereas when I was younger, there was a lot more fear and sadness, I guess, around like my body, so I would always feel very exposed if I knew that someone had seen me in that way. But yeah, as I've grown up and I've just sort of like realized that this is just sort of like the vessel I have, that there's way less of an attachment to it. Okay, so this is BDD related. I'm pretty sure I did cover a lot of BDD on my last sleepover club, but as you know, I've had BDD for a while, but in the past year I was in therapy for BDD. So if you don't know what BDD is body dysmorphic disorder. It can manifest in a lot of different ways. For like people basically obsess over a certain aspect of themselves. It can be their skin, their face, certain aspects of their body, etc, etc. It manifests in a lot of different ways. But anyway, so this person says, I recently started work on my BDD and it's tough. I can't imagine feeling any other type of way about my body, but I want to so badly. I'm scared about doing exposure exercise. Any advice, please? So, I mean, this may be because it was more recent, but my BDD therapy and the work I had to do with my BDD did feel like probably one of the hardest challenges I've ever had to do. And so I can completely relate to this feeling, and it's also something that I still have to do. There's still areas of my BDD, like it's not just gone, you know, there's still areas of myself that I'm still working on. So for me, early on BDD recovery was extremely difficult. Same with every recovery. Going into recovery for any form of mental illness is often much harder than suffering with the mental illness at the beginning, because although, you know, we're all aware of just how horrible these mental illnesses are, but when it comes to recovery from those mental illnesses, you are facing all of those issues head on. So you are confronted with all of those thoughts that you have about yourself, rather than just kind of sitting in them and being horrendously sad. You have to sit in them, be horrendously sad, and then try and power through them, which causes even more sadness and even more angst. And it's so difficult at the very beginning to see your life outside of it. And I know that for a fact, because when I was going through the early stages of my work with my BDD, I, you know, was forced, I had to look in the mirror, you know, I had to stare at myself and do these challenges that my therapist had set me. And, you know, I would cry all the time, or there'd be times that I wasn't allowed to look in the mirror, I wasn't allowed to look in reflective surfaces, because I got so comfortable and used to checking the mirror about 50 to 100 times a day that when my therapist told me that I wasn't allowed to do that anymore, I was filled with so much discomfort and so much like vulnerability that it was such a hard challenge for me to do, even though for most people that is not something that they do all the time, you know. And I would find myself getting so visibly and like physically upset at the idea of not being able to look at my reflection in the tube window. And so I would arrive at places so flustered, so stressed, so sad, because, you know, I hadn't been able to check myself, and therefore, because I hadn't been able to check myself, I wasn't aware of what I was looking like. And that, in a sense, I would rather, this is the sort of thought, is I would have rather known that I looked ugly and sitting in that sadness than the unknown of, I don't know what I look like, and assuming that it was the ugly side of me. Awful. And you had to do it, and I had to do it, and it's so annoying and so typical to say, but the more that you can do those exposure therapies and face those disordered thoughts, the less power you give them. I mean, it's only been a year since I started therapy, and a year and a bit since I started antidepressants, and so much of my life has changed in that, because I was very, very grateful enough to have therapy and have that access, but also I pushed myself to face the music and just fucking do it. And I spent a lot of my days crying and upset, but eventually I was able to move past that and move through that. And although I still have bad days here and there, I have pushed past that point of being consumed by the thoughts. And I think that's the difference between at the beginning of recovery and at the end of recovery, or, you know, towards the end, is it's that consumption of thought that goes. There are days that I'm like, for goodness sake, I'm never gonna feel good about myself. But then I focus more on the other parts of myself, I guess, that do matter to me in those days, which is something that I never used to be able to do. And there are still days that I'm feeling really good. As hard as it is, you have to do the exposure exercises. You have to do them. Make sure you have a nice support network around you, whether that's having access to therapy, which I know not everyone does, but having a group of people around you, or even one person around you that you can share that vulnerability and that lowness with, because you need that when you're trying to overcome things. You need someone there to be there for you when you are having those low moments. But you really have to fight to overcome mental illness. and you're fighting a lot of those inner battles, and you need someone to be able to look after you and make sure that, you know, you have that space to vent. Oh my god, I got pins and needles. I'm just a girl. How to tackle telling your friends about past, present mental health conditions. I feel like my behavior can be explained by doing this. I just worry they think of me as weird. Okay, well, in my opinion, this is my opinion, that any friend or person that treats you differently or thinks you're weird because you have a mental health condition is not worthy of your time and is not worthy of your friendship. Point blank. Period. If someone is truly your friend and someone truly values you, then they will accept you for who you are with or without that mental health condition, because I think people forget that health is not guaranteed. So your friendship should be able to be there for the ups and the downs. And if a friendship can only be there for the highs, whether that's mental health, physical health, any form of emotional roller coaster, then they're not a valuable friend. These topics are still hard to talk about no matter how much we talk about them. I've definitely got used to talking about mental health and mental illness, and so for a lot of my friends, a lot of people I'm with, second nature, and it's definitely easier than what it used to be. You know, there are some people that I still do struggle with, and it is still a topic that is very heavily judged. You know, no matter how many of us online are talking about it, there's still a bit of a, what is that word? I can't think of that word, but you know what I mean. But in this space specifically, if you have a one friend that you're closer to, I would talk to one friend first. I mean, to be honest, you might be different. You might rather just tell everyone in one go. But for me personally, I find it much easier to talk to one person and then get used to talking to that person, and then you might feel more comfortable telling other people, especially if you think it's going to explain how you're feeling, because it's important to open up. You never know, they may also be like, oh yeah, I've struggled with X, Y, and Z, or, you know, a lot of people, you'll be surprised, a lot of people have struggled with their mental health. I'm sure everyone at one point has struggled with their mental health. A lot of people also have mental illness, so you will be surprised to learn that probably a few of them also know exactly how you're feeling. Being able to open up to people means that if you find yourself struggling particularly more, you have those people there that are able to be there for you and help you, and vice versa. I'm sure that you opening up to them, firstly, if they're good friends, people love it when people open up to them because it shows just how close you are. It shows that vulnerability, but it also might mean for them that they feel comfortable to open up to you as well. And I think just being open with your friends about mental health, mental illness, everything like that is just so freaking valuable, especially in this day and age with mental illness increasing and people struggling with their mental health more and more. My friend with benefit ghosted me, and I'm not sure if I should start dating again because someone wants to take me on a date, or wait for him to text back. It's been a couple of weeks and it's making me really sad because I loved hanging out with him. Okay, I don't want you to wait for him to text you back. Someone may disagree in the comments, but if someone has ghosted you and after a couple of weeks, everyone has different reasons for ghosting or being a bit shitty or whatever, and that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person, but it does mean that they're not meeting your standard. Two people can have very different opinions on what dating looks like, what friends with benefits looks like, or whatever, but if they're not the same, they shouldn't be together. And from the sounds of things, either, you know, because he could just be going for a rough time, I don't know, and he could just have not communicated with you in that whole time, and that is shitty. I just don't think that you should necessarily lower your standards to be with someone who is not giving you the energy to reply to you in 2 weeks. I'm just saying. Also, this person who wants to take you on a date might be the person who you want to be with, and you don't want to put that off just in case you're waiting for this text back from this man. I'm saying that harshly because I know how sad it is when things end, but for you, I think it's important to just move past this rather than kind of wait for that text, because that's also like a really mentally draining place to be. It's so mentally draining just trying to wait for someone to, you know, give you the energy you want. So I just think go out there, find someone that matches your energy, and if someone wants to take you on a date, go for it, girl. How to make new friends in your 20s. I left my not very nice friends and now I don't have any now. Oh god, such bad pins and needles. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Making new friends in your 20s seems like a really hard task, right? Because a lot of my friendships are from school, and in school you're just kind of thrust into an environment and say make friends, whereas obviously in your 20s it is much less likely that you're ever going to be put in the space with people who you want to hang out with more. And obviously for a lot of people you have work friends. Now I'm self-employed, so luckily I've made friends on social media, which is a really easy place to make friends. The best places recently that I've been meeting new people, not even meeting new friends, but meeting people, has been taking myself out alone and going to things, because here's an example of, I went traveling when I was 18, and I did 6 months away or 5 months away, and for 1 month I was with my friend and the rest of the months I was by myself. Now I met so many more friends and so many more people in the time that I was by myself because I had to. I literally had to go out and meet new people because otherwise I was going to be by myself. And so although having a friend with me was like amazing, and we did still meet people and we still had a great time, but you do have that comfort of knowing people. Whereas if you go to events and things by yourself, although arguably much harder at the very beginning, you do walk away with much more experience, more confidence for sure. I've been using Eventbrite recently to go to events that have been hosted by different people. There's free events that you can go to, or there's ones that you have to pay a little bit. So I'm in London obviously, but they have them all over. The good thing about those events is also that they are a theme. So like if you're really creative and you want to go to a creative event and meet creative people, then you can go to this event and you know the people there are also going to enjoy what the topic is. I did a video recently where I went to this clay evening, and I will link it in the description, where I was going specifically to meet new people because I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone, because I struggle with the idea of meeting new people. Even though I love meeting new people, I really struggle with the idea of it, and serious social anxiety that I have been slowly overcoming over the years. And these things that I pushed myself out on have been the places that I've met the most friends. I also know that you can join like Facebook groups and stuff for young people in your area to meet new people. I know Bumble has like a friends version, which I kind of want to do. I kind of want to go on a friend date. Let me know if I should do that, because I think that will be fun. Also put my money where my mouth is. My friend Nicole, I met her at an event, but I went to that by myself, was terrified to go to that, went to it by myself, met her, and now she's one of my best friends, and I've only known her for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? Do it. Okay, and on that note, I'm gonna end the sleepover club here. I appreciate that it's been very bright, so it's not really the warm sleepover club vibes, but hopefully this is good enough. I don't know. Let me know if you have any comments on anything. I just picked this up to drink. I didn't. If you have any comments on anything I've said, please leave them down below. As I said, this is not gospel. This is just a few of my opinions, a few of my advice. I will see you in the next video. Henry and I love you.